Okay, well, I think everybody is here. Ginger, thank you for your help in getting this kicked off. So let me kick things off. And first of all, I know some of you, this may be the first time we've ever met virtually. My name is Doug Lawyer. I'm the Vice President of Economic Development here at the Knoxville Chamber. And really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to have a roundtable discussion or fireside chat or whatever you want to call this. So a little bit about the Chamber. About a year ago, we launched a new strategic plan, which we call the Path to Prosperity, which is a 5-year strategy for regional growth. Our mission statement at the Knoxville Chamber is pretty simple. It's 4 words long. It's driving regional economic prosperity. And our Path to Prosperity strategic plan covers a lot of different things, from entrepreneurship and small business launches to talent and workforce development, infrastructure, public policy, business climate issues, legislative issues that affect businesses, as well as business attraction, the bringing in of new businesses to the Knoxville region, as well as business expansion. So the business attraction, business expansion kind of pieces of the pie are what falls under my wheelhouse in economic development. And part of the Path to Prosperity plan is we identified 5 different platforms of companies that we think make a lot of sense to locate and or expand in this region. And those platforms are really broad. So that's communication, health companies, movement companies, security companies, and then power companies. And a lot of different things fall under those different sectors. So this is our first foray into roundtable discussions on one of these strategic platforms, obviously the Power Roundtable. And we are looking forward to hearing from you guys. There's kind of 3 things that we're going to hit at a high level, and then I'll facilitate the conversation, but I think this will be a lot of bouncing back and forth between you guys who have volunteered your time to join us. The 3 topics is I want to talk about kind of the current state of all things power in the industry, kind of what the trends are, what's going on. Want to talk about how our region should be preparing to support future trends as a community. What can we be doing? And then a little bit about talent, like what kind of talent do you need in your industry sectors to grow and prosper here in the Knoxville region? So I think first it would be great if we go around the table, so to speak, the virtual Zoom table, and everybody introduce themselves. I'll ask Scotty Johnson to kick off and introduce himself and tell us a little bit about your company.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thank you, Doug. This is my first time participating in one of these, so you guys go easy on me. My company is a group of companies, actually, but Systematic Power Solutions is the legal entity. Under that arm, we have Excess Power and TurboStart, which have historically primarily focused on aftermarket battery applications for automotive, a little bit industrial, a little bit commercial. More recently, we've expanded, started a kind of a sister LLC to that called Systematic Power Manufacturing. And that business is New York based. We acquired an ultra capacitor manufacturing facility focusing on manufacturing electrode materials, capacitor cells, and modules to serve a multitude of different industries, including grid connected applications, transportation, industrial, things like AGVs, solar backup. The applications are all over. So what that's done for the Knoxville company is it's opened our client book up to be able to start working with customers in the energy storage space. So now we have ongoing communication with large companies like Daimler, PACCAR, Raytheon, DOE, a lot of other applications for energy storage and backup. So that allows us to use some of our battery expertise in combination with what we have in the ultra capacitor space to to chase larger applications. So that's a little bit about what we do and who we are.
Very good, Scotty.
Thank you.
Next, Don DeRosa. Don, one of the things we wanted to do was one, have industry experts from the region, but in some well-established companies, but we also wanted some companies representing the entrepreneurial side of things. And so Don, tell us a little bit about your company, Eonix.
Yeah, great. And I should just say, before I forget, this is the first time I've ever actually heard somebody mention ultracapacitors on any panel I've been on. And we have quite a few different projects on materials innovation for ultracapacitors. So that's pretty funny. Yeah, very, very rare market to speak to. So my name is Don DeRosa. I'm the CEO of Eonix. We relocated from New York to the Knoxville region 2.5 years ago with funding from the Department of Energy. We have an active collaboration with Oak Ridge National Lab to screen new materials for lithium-ion batteries and ultracapacitors. So we have a high throughput screening system that allows us to look at new molecules at a lower cost and a much quicker rate. So we're able to accelerate product development on the material side. In terms of what we have near term, we developed a non-flammable lithium-ion battery for defense markets and grid storage markets, where flammability has been a concern. We currently have that as a prototype device. We're located at primarily at the University of Tennessee Cherokee Research Park. So Tom Rogers started a center for a lot of hard tech, science-based companies to have independent operations, and that's just been a fantastic resource for us in the region. So, yeah.
Very good, and welcome to Knoxville, Don. And we want to see your company thrive and grow here in Knoxville. So thanks for taking the time. Chris Dawson with Ashby Company. You're muted. Hey, Chris, you're muted.
All right,
There you
double
go.
your bingo card. Yeah, I work for the Ashby Company. I've been with the Ashby Company a little over 25 years. Ashby Company has a utility side and an electrical side, and we're a manufacturer's representative. So a lot of the manufacturers that a lot of your companies use are companies that we represent. So my role in the area is to introduce new products, work with consulting firms and designing, helping with applications, dealing with quality problems, training employees, that kind of thing. So some of the companies that we represent that you may be familiar with, depending on who you're with, S&C Electric, Hoffman Enclosures, Panduit, Waukesha Substation Power Transformers, Tyco Electronics, and a few others. So I do a lot of work at Oak Ridge. We've had products tested at EPRI. And we obviously do a lot of work with TVA on in the substation side, but I personally don't work on the utility side. I strictly call on industrials. So for instance, TVA generation sites would be people that I work with. So I'm very honored to be here today. I'm not sure how much I can contribute. Anything that I can contribute, I think, would be on a broader scale of being exposed to a lot of different industries in the area and what they're looking for, and just problems that they see and problems that they discuss with me all the time.
All right, thank you, Chris. Appreciate you being here. Richard Stair, Texas Instruments.
Yeah, hey, I've been with TI for about 22 years now. Started in Dallas and then moved out to Knoxville to start a remote office here, maybe back in 2005 or so, I think it was. So we're part of the party responsible for the global semiconductor shortage. So welcome. But we do battery charger ICs for portable devices. So your cell phones, PDAs, whatever kind of portable equipment. We have automotive, industrial, personal electronics, all kinds of applications. So we do the design here in Knoxville and ship lots and lots of units across the world. So thanks for letting me be part of this, and look forward to what I can contribute.
Thank you, Richard. Appreciate you being here. And Show of hands, how many folks on the panel knew that TI had an R&D design center here in Knoxville? Right in downtown Knoxville, right, Richard?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, all right. Tim Cutshall, Mesa Associates.
Good morning, everyone. With Mesa Associates, we are an engineering firm that does work for electric utilities across the United States. We have 17 locations across the United States. Our largest one is here in Knoxville. I'm actually in the office today. You should have closed my door. Sorry about that. And we have about another 300 down in Chattanooga. But I think we have MSAs, master service agreements, or engineer of choice agreements with 13 of the top 15 IOUs, investor-owned utilities in the United States, and a lot of that work is done here in East Tennessee. We also have a sister business that is called Mesa Technologies, and there we build automotive machinery. So pick and place machines for automotive. We built the accumulation system for the Nissan Leaf batteries, those type of applications. So it's very different businesses, but both I think are collectively very important to what we're going to talk about today. I think, and hopefully we can have some good discussions, and looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Tom King with Oak Ridge National Lab.
Good morning. I've been working at Oak Ridge for 18 years, been in the energy business for about just over 25. I think people are familiar with the lab. History dates back to the Manhattan Project era. We do research and development in many different energy applications. Our laboratory director calls us a translational research lab, where we do research but rely on the industry and the industry collaboration to work through those valleys of death, going from the science to the applied space, but also from just the laboratory and deploy in the field. So the work that I do is focused on grid modernization activities. And we work closely with many different partners, working on monitoring, modeling, controls, actuation systems. Security, resiliency is all part of where things are going. So happy to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Joseph Birchfield with TVA.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to be here, and not to presume what everyone knows about TVA, but just as a quick note, we're the largest public power company in the U.S. We're a large generation and transmission company. I work with our economic development team, where our responsibilities are to support our 7-state region with the recruitment and project coordination through some programmatic deliverables of those industries. This industry sector and the transformation of the grid is really interesting for economic development purposes, because it represents new opportunities to recruit. And so, Chris, I think about some of the comments you made. I feel pretty humbled to be here with this group. I don't know what kind of value I can provide other than the economic development perspective. So excited to provide that.
Thanks for joining us, Joseph. And finally, Mike Howard.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you. As Doug said, I'm Mike Howard, and I've been in the energy space for 40 years. I just retired after 10 years as the CEO of EPRI. For those that are not familiar with EPRI, we started in 1972. We're a global organization, do about $450 million a year in what we call applied technology innovation. We focus on everything from the generation of electricity, delivery of electricity, to the end use of electricity. It's interesting. We started working, I guess ultracapacitors have been mentioned twice. We started working, I remember, on a project in 2000, actually with the Russians, on helping to develop asymmetrical ultracapacitors. And that's how far and that's been out of our Knoxville office, actually. So we have largest offices in Charlotte, headquarters is in Palo Alto, California, but we have about 200 people here, mostly focused on the wire side of the business, transmission, distribution, and end use, and some cyber. But I guess we've got about 200 people here, mostly engineers and scientists. So we work with, gosh, I think every single investor on utility in the US. We're in 50 different countries, work with public power, co-ops across the US and other places. So we're in the energy space and specifically in the electric utility space. So it's a little bit about EPRI. Hopefully when we can get back to the office, we can invite everyone over and kind of show you in more detail some of the things that we're doing here in Knoxville. We're just off of Dutchtown Road and Pillissippi Parkway. We've got I don't know, I can't remember now, but it's probably 200,000 square feet, something like that, with a good sized lab. So back to you, Doug.
Okay. Well, thank you again, everybody. And this is, I'm just thrilled with the breadth and depth of knowledge that we have on this panel discussion. And, you know, honestly, we could have invited another 15, 20 people, but I think we would have lost a little bit of the intimacy and the ability to hear from everybody. You know, from an economic development perspective, you know, we have so many of our great partners on here with Oak Ridge National Lab. Every project that comes across our radar from a business attraction standpoint, we're always trying to match, is there a technology at the lab? TVA, economic development, certainly, we can't do our jobs without their support of their entire economic development team. And EPRI has opened a lot of conversations recently from the business attraction side around different energy storage, charging, battery types of companies. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you and appreciate the partnership to those entities that are on the Zoom here this morning. All right, well, let's kick off some discussion here. And like I said, I get the role of facilitator, but you don't want to just listen to me talk. I want to hear from you guys. And this Zoom is being recorded, and we hope to capture some sound bites to use on chamber outreach and marketing and websites as we build out our strategic platform sections of knoxvillechamber.com. So as companies are looking at us, you guys can help me sell this region as a great place to do business, I hope. So, all right, well, let's kick off. So let's do the broad question first. What's the current state of the power industry here in the Knoxville region? Somebody want to jump in and kind of give the 50,000 foot view? Don't be shy.
Mike, you may be the best one to answer that, but you know, from the broader perspective of electric utilities, I mean, it's obvious where everyone's going. You know, it's going to be renewable, and it's going to be you know, a lot of that connected to electric vehicles. I mean, that's the situation right now. That's what everyone's going to be chasing for the next at least 10 years, probably. And you know, I think it's important that we figure out where this group and Knoxville and Tennessee fits into that, because I think there's a ton of opportunity. And I've been in business, you know, 30 years, 32 years, I guess. And I mean, the electric utility industry has never experienced any kind of change like they have in the past 5, and is going to in the next 5. So we just need to be prepared for it. I'll let someone else give their thoughts.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to 2 major things: cleaner and electricity. And what I mean by that is the significant push, not just in this region, but globally, to reduce carbon and increase the amount of cleaner generation. And that's a whole bucket of technologies, from nuclear to renewables to carbon capture and storage to on and on. And so I say cleaner electricity. Now, on the electricity side, it's really a big emphasis on electrification. And that's using cleaner electricity to do things that is more efficient, more productive, less costly to do, especially at the end use side. And that includes things like electric vehicles, which we've mentioned energy storage several times. It's certainly critically important to electric vehicles, but it's also a variety of other technologies from heat pumps and other things. So it's really about using more electricity to help reduce the overall carbon of the economy wide. So those are two things: generating cleaner electricity and using cleaner electricity in electric applications economy wide, and certainly electric vehicles is one of those. Now, between that, there's transmission, distribution, cybersecurity. There's a whole bunch of other things that Knoxville can play a major role in, certainly given the resources at Oak Ridge, TVA, and UT. But it's the brackets are cleaner, and using more electricity, electrification.
And to add to that, we've been having conversations through Teams meetings and Zoom meetings with TVA and EPRI folks, and looking at just the region as a whole. Historically, it's been extremely reliable compared to other parts of the country. So that's a unique aspect that I think we can start to look at and build off of, from just the reliability that this region offers. And that's got a lot to do with TVA. It's got a lot to do with Southern Company, Duke, the infrastructure that we have, along with a lot of the distribution companies associated with that, and folks being interested in learning and advancing technologies and being willing to take some of those risks. And so as Mike talks about this electrification, more renewables coming in, as we heard, and the electrification and this cleaner aspects, we have an opportunity to be leaders across the country. And I think that's the exciting part, as we go forward, looking at some of the challenges that we face in this big electrification and decarbonization.
Right, let me just add one thing to what Doug said. I absolutely agree. This area is blessed with very, very good reliability, but it's also blessed with good quality electricity. And there are probably more resources in this area that focuses on not only the reliability, but the quality of electricity. It's those blink of the eye disruptions that can shut a plant down. There's probably more technical expertise here than I would say anywhere, certainly in the country, if not the world. I mean, we have a tremendous amount of resources to technical expertise on reliability and power quality. And that's something that's certainly very unique to this area.
Mike, that's a really great point. And coming from an economic development perspective, we tout our reliability when we are in the process of recruiting industries. And for so long, whenever we look at reliability, I think we have a tendency to focus on the lines, on the lines on the poles, and say, hey, that line has not had an outage, or any of the equipment associated with this site has not had an outage. But it's a fully integrated system that we tout, which includes generation. And I think events in recent months really help highlight our reliability and the public power model, because of it's a fully integrated perception of the generation and the transmission and the distribution. And that is how we should speak about reliability, not specifically just our transmission lines, not specifically just the distribution network, not specifically just the generation, but the fully integrated power system that we have that really just sells this region as a great opportunity.
A few weeks back, we had the opportunity to host a business that was looking at setting up a location in East Tennessee, and it was immediately after the power disruption in Texas, and this company was based in Texas. So all day long, they kept hearing from people that had not a lot of exposure to TVA or the electrical grid, like, hey, we've got reliable power here in East Tennessee. That's one of the quality assets of what we've got. So very good. Any other thoughts on big picture or other things that you're thinking about that we need to be talking about here from the region?
I just had a question for Mike. Could you educate me? I'm in micropower. So what's the difference between quality and reliability? I get reliability, but you don't get power disruptions. But what is quality? Is that like?
So quality usually is referring to those small second or less disruptions. As we've moved toward more digital electronics and everything that we do, they're very susceptible to blink of the eye disruptions. And when they do, then they shut down. They, if they don't have a UPS and even a very special type of UPS, it can shut down a whole factory. And it could take a day or two just to get the factory up and running, even though you have power coming in and it's reliable. Just for that one blink of an eye, you had a disruption that caused the factory to shut down. So that's the quality side. So you have the reliability side, you have the quality side. The other one is resiliency, and that's where you have how susceptible is the system to bouncing back after a major event, for example, a hurricane or a major tornado event, and so on. And that's the one thing that Texas is looking at right now. How can we develop a more resilient system? So resiliency, reliability, and quality are kind of the three major buckets of things.
The other thing is just kind of interesting, maybe not that relevant, but we deal with a lot of other countries in Asia and other parts of the world where they don't have quite as good of a grid, and like our chips have to be robust against surges. So we end up over design to handle these short surges where you can get a voltage spike or whatever, and we don't have that problem here. So
yeah, see that over surge, that surge, that's a quality issue, power quality issue, and especially in the semiconductor industry, that is, it's just, I mean, some of these wafers can take 30 days to kind of develop, build, and if that are highly temperature sensitive, and if you get to the 29th day and all of a sudden you have an issue, you lose that whole batch.
yeah,
and you could lose millions of dollars depending on that. That's industry. These companies spend a lot of money making sure that they can withstand these types of quality issues. But it's also the automobile industry, the pharmaceutical, I mean, on and on and on. And it is, you're absolutely correct. It is a very important economic development attribute that companies look at when they decide to locate somewhere. They want to know, do I have resilient, reliable, and quality power? And if you can't check those boxes, they'll go somewhere else. And Tennessee with TVA is really right on the top of that list. So, all you got to do is look at California, look at Texas, look at the North. I mean, so there's a lot of examples, but Tennessee, primarily because of TVA, has a very, very robust infrastructure and is getting cleaner when they brought on another nuclear plant. And so I don't know the specifics about TVA's generation CO2 per megawatt hour, but it's got to be as good, if not better, than a lot of other utilities around the country.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Mike. We definitely see our a reduction in our CO2 footprint, our carbon footprint, as it relates to the 2005 kind of numbers that we measure, from which we measure, I guess. And we're right now somewhere around 55% of our portfolio is non-carbon emitting. Kind of flipping back on the topic of economic development and opportunities for this region. You touch on semiconductors. I know storage has been mentioned a few times, and electric vehicles, and TVA, economic development in the state of Tennessee as a whole, has seen quite a bit of activity and success just as recently as this week related to this industry. If you all have seen it, or if not have seen it, General Motors and LG Energy did a joint venture that they announced this week, where they'll be constructing those batteries to be integrated into the GM platform. And we as a utility are seeing this. I think it was mentioned earlier about the electrification of these cars. And one of the greatest challenges, I think, with electrification, the EV industry, is range anxiety, and the adoption rate at which the population is going to accept these EVs is going to be dependent on that ability for them to push further and further out. And so, TVA has partnered with our other peer utilities to commit to establishing a network of charging across our region, and as noted, our peers have also committed to doing so. So hopefully you'll continue to see the grid transform and integrate with EVs. And with that, kind of tying back into economic development, with that will present new opportunities, because whether it's Volkswagen, Nissan, GM, and then within Tennessee, and then some of the OEMs that are outside of Tennessee in the region, Hyundai and Kia, Daimler was mentioned earlier, Mercedes down in Tuscaloosa, BMW. We continue to see this area being a central point for that EV market as it continues to grow, the manufacturing market as it continues to grow in the Southeast, and the I-75 corridor that Knoxville can tout is certainly a key part of their connectivity to that region. So certainly see opportunities to tie back into energy storage, the manufacturing piece of it, semiconductors. There's a ton of press related to chips and the lack thereof tied to the automotive industry, but we see opportunities for that also in other markets, such as you mentioned, satellites and communication, aerospace defense. So that market is continuing to grow, and the Knoxville region lends itself to being competitive based on their access to skilled labor.
Let me add a footnote to that point about the Knoxville region, and a new development that has come online that you may or may not have heard of, but we've just a few weeks ago opened the new Midway Road Business Park at exit 402 on Interstate 40. So Knox County now has 275 acres of fresh new land, all roads, all infrastructure in place. It sits at a TVA in-feed station with a KUB substation. So we've got a lot of power at that site. And so as you guys are out networking with your peers and your customers and your companies, if somebody mentions the word, hey, we need a location in East Tennessee, we've got a beautiful spot to put some companies, advanced manufacturing, R&D, headquarters, all of those things would work at that new business park. So next time you're heading to the mountains, and as you're heading east on I-40, exit at 402 and take a left and drive up and take a look around. It's really developed out nicely.
Hey, Doug, I just wanted to add one thing to this piece of the conversation.
Yeah.
So everyone's talked about renewable energy and how important that is. I think what you're going to find is the bigger the company, a lot of these companies, just I guess really in the last 6 months, they're making a lot of their decisions that we've seen in other parts of the Ashby Company territory. For instance, in Alabama, there's a large prison project going on there where they're under a federal mandate to make the prisons there more humane. And so what you see is a lot of companies looking to invest in even the bonds and things like that, when they get involved in projects like that, they're going to be given like an ESG score, their environmental sustainability, their social justice, and their governance. So when you get into the E, the environmental sustainability, I think what you're going to find is a lot of large corporations are going to make decisions on where they locate based upon the percentage of renewable energy that they can have access to. So they can claim 100% of the energy we're using, or 55% is based on renewable energy. And that would increase their corporate ESG score, helping their ability to get, large loans and bonds and things like that. So I think you're just going to see that continue to grow. It's not so much your financial resilience anymore as a corporation. You're going to be getting access to dollars and loans and bonds as corporations and governments, I think, based upon what your environmental sustainability score is. So the more renewable energy we can get in the area that they can tap into, I think it increases our area's chances of success of recruiting some of those larger businesses, I think.
Yeah. God, I agree 100% on that. I'm a group of some utility CEOs and CEOs of about 10 different major environmental groups. And we had a call the other day, and the whole focus on environmental justice, social justice, ESG is big, and it's not going away. And you will have to check those boxes before you even get financing for a project now. And then it spills over into the community. Companies will look and say, what is your social and economic and environmental justice history, to see if we want to move to this particular area? And what is your policies and practices, and on, just to make sure, is this a place we want to live and grow and hire? So I just think that is going to take on a huge emphasis going forward, and we need to make sure that we're aligned on all of those basic principles, or else companies will go somewhere else.
That's a great point. Not in my time in doing economic development, it used to be, where's the substation and what's the reliability? Now it's, what's the generation portfolio look like? And those social issues come up in practically every major attraction project now. They want to understand what a community we're doing, and how companies can integrate immediately into our various ecosystems, whichever type of business they're in. So that's a big part of what we're doing here. So let's say you all have a magic wand, and we've talked a lot about the various trends with renewable and electric vehicles, and what are we lacking in this region? If you had a magic wand and you could change something immediately or make something happen immediately to grow this power sector here in Knoxville, what are the top one or two things that you think we need to be focusing on?
I think one that's pretty important is connections, just like we're doing here. I know Tom King and Doug Lawler, but that's about it. I really don't know a lot of the other people here. If you thought when I woke up this morning I would hear ultracapacitors twice, close to 9 a.m., I would say you're no way. So I think from the first is creating this group of people that we can share and talk and discuss and see what's going on, so that we can reach out and talk to different people and help other companies and entrepreneurs and established companies and so on, and just have that connection. I don't know if we do that through regular meetings or if we do that through, like I said, I wish we could have a tour, and see things, and maybe not touch things, since they're mostly electric, but but just have that connectivity that we can share ideas. Maybe we put together our own small conference that will bring in other people in a community that has a passion around energy. What are there on this call? 8 or 9? I gotta think there's another 50 out there somewhere that we don't know about. So
the connectivity piece is so important to what Mike's talking about. Understanding what those challenges are, how we look at deployment of activities, and it comes down to people. We have infrastructure, we have unique facilities across the entire system from the Tennessee Valley. Taking advantage of that is great, but to me, it's about the people. How do you bring in the talent? We have a lot of talent, but as you look into the future, how do you continue to bring that pipeline of talent? And that's going to be the biggest challenge that I see of recruiting, hiring, retaining people in this region. So we have energy storage folks on this call. There are a lot of people in the energy industry that don't know how to operate an energy storage system. Power electronics, Mike was part of a National Academy study that talks about power electronics as one element of the future. Who knows how to operate? Maybe, the Texas Instruments and some of the electronics folks, but there's going to need to be training for these new technologies coming forward from an operational side. So boy, you look at what we need, aside from a beach or other types of, we have the Smoky Mountains, so maybe a beach, but how do you bring the youth into this area and keep them there, keep them here, taking advantage of the infrastructure and all the stuff that we have? So to me, that's the biggest challenge.
yeah, and we're so fortunate to have. I was talking to Leon Talbert the other day. I mean, we have a really good world-class power electronics program at the University of Tennessee. Yeah, current, that's right. And that's not something you just go and build overnight. I mean, it's taken 10 years, 20 years, if not longer. And so when you combine that expertise at Oak Ridge with the University of Tennessee, with a major utility, I mean, you have the combination of things that it takes. Now, that in itself is not sufficient. You've got to be able to attract people to come here and work on big things that are going to make a difference in the world. But my God, we got 3 of the major ingredients.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo both of those sentiments. I think, we've been here for 2.5 years and we still haven't really tapped into the network of talent and other companies to collaborate in this region in the same way that we previously have in the Northeast. So I think, creating more regionally focused, like energy in this instance focused events where we can connect with larger companies, established companies, would definitely help build, at least, from an entrepreneurship standpoint, that ecosystem. And then from a talent perspective, I can say a lot of my colleagues in this region get poached by either Boston or Austin. I don't know why they're phonetically similar, but I'm definitely bullish on this region for electric vehicles, energy storage, battery development, just because you're bringing in so many large companies who are dragging along talent as well. So I think the long-term outlook here is great. It's just, trying to attract a talent pool and make some hires, because my colleague just moved from Knoxville, relocated to Boston, made 20 hires in, 3 weeks. I don't know if that's necessarily possible in this region at this standpoint. I think there's a strong argument to get people to relocate. Love the region. My wife fell in love with Knoxville, so I can't leave. But yeah, it's definitely a little difficult from the talent pool perspective.
Well, thank you to your wife. Let me make sure we send her a Starbucks gift.
I was surprised. She's a Jersey Shore girl. So, but yeah, it definitely, a lot of people come to this region and fall in love with it. So I think it's just visibility at that point.
Yeah.
You know, Doug, one thing just to throw out there is, we really need like an energy directory for Knoxville. We don't know what we have around us. Like I had no idea that Texas Instruments, had a lab down there and research R&D facility. We just had an energy directory. If you have something to do with energy, put this in here and tell us what you do. And then that would help connect people immediately at a very simple pace, I would think.
That's a great point, Tim. And, we internally here, we brainstormed companies of who we wanted to be part of this initial roundtable discussion. And like I said, the list was much longer than we have here. But that's as we build out the way we communicate, not only internally to existing businesses, because your companies are already here and we want to make sure that we retain your companies in Knoxville and help facilitate growth. But then there's also telling the story to the outside world of what's going on here in Knoxville from a business attraction standpoint. And the last point I want to hit on is workforce needs. Companies are more and more, that's the initial question when they call a chamber or they call Joseph at TVA or they talk to the state is, okay, I need 250 of this type of skill set. Where can I find that? We'll figure out the dirt and the bricks and mortar later. A great example, we recently announced CGI locating an operation here in Knoxville with 300 positions. And that was a talent-driven location decision to the point that they announced they're coming to Knoxville and we still don't know where they're going to go, where their in-game facility is going to be. That's still to be figured out, but they're already hiring people. So as it relates to the power industry, what are the skill sets we should be worrying about in this region? And think big. That to the child sitting in 7th grade middle school this morning, what types of things do we need to be grooming those kids for, as all the way up to PhDs at the University of Tennessee? Let's talk a little bit about workforce. What are the needs?
Doug, I think I can speak to that a little bit as far as our our needs here. Recently, with the growth we've had, we're having trouble getting like general labor people. Getting people to come in and work starting positions. Doing assembly and things of that nature. So I agree with Mike's comment that being connected is overall one of the best things we can do. I would never have guessed in 30 minutes I would have found out about all of the connections here today. But I feel like there's great opportunities to come out of it. But for a growing company like ours, being able to add large numbers of staff members quickly and easily would be a huge help for us. And of course, there are some other higher level positions that we're inevitably going to need down the road. And I don't really have a suggestion how to get us there, but these programs that have been mentioned at the University of Tennessee and some others seem like great existing programs that I never knew were there. So finding out more about that stuff for some of the other people that were not able to join this call would be a huge help for them as well as companies like mine.
Hey, Doug, let me make a suggestion here. So before I moved back to Knoxville about a year and a half ago, I lived in Charlotte, and I was there for, I don't know, close to 15 years. They have something similar to our Leadership Knoxville, Leadership Charlotte, but they have one focused on energy. So think of it as Leadership Energy. I don't know. It's a different name, but I was involved in it. And the purpose was to bring a group of people together once a month for 12 months. And it introduces the community of energy people, like on this call, to what's going on. It introduces the people to the various resources, and you start building up this cadre of people that then spread the word. I think each class in Charlotte it seemed like it's roughly 25 people. And, you visited TVA, you visited EPRI, you visited Oak Ridge, and you have these discussions. But also part of it was your obligation to go into a school, give a talk at a school about certain things. You were talking about 7th grade or 8th grade, whatever it is. I mean, there were some things that you had to do in the community to promote. And I don't know, maybe we could, then there was awards that are given out to company. I mean, it was kind of a leadership Knoxville, but focused on energy. And I think, we could get a few companies to help sponsor that, but it'd have to be under the leadership of the chamber. And I'd certainly be willing to help do something like that.
Sounds like Mike just set up the Elks Club. So the energy leadership of Knoxville. There we go.
There you go.
Only if we get those hats.
Uh-oh.
The Grand
Yeah.
Poobah.
Yeah.
So that's I'm just trying to figure out a way to kind of get everybody connected. And I remember the time in Charlotte, it was a pretty powerful group. And over a period of time, you had a lot of alumni of it. And they just, they were proud of what they did.
Yeah.
Maybe
I really-
similar to what, I'm sorry, go ahead, Doug. I was just gonna say, maybe kind of similar to what the Department of Energy has done and with ETEC. Are you guys familiar with ETEC? I mean, basically it is a group that gets together and talks, on energy, more around the Department of Energy, I'll say. But if you had something similar to that focused on, the utility industry, electric utility industry, I think that's a great idea. I think you'd have a tremendous turnout.
And that career awareness piece, I really like that of getting in the classrooms. Over the years, the chamber has done programs where we take teachers and drop them into an area business, for a half day during the summer. And then we started doing that with guidance counselors as well. But getting in the classroom and making the children and teachers and principals even, for example, we hosted all of the high school principals in Knox County schools. I think there's 19 different high schools, and brought them to the chamber, gave them a list of the major employers within their school zone, and just so they could help to understand what companies are in their backyard and making those connection points. So that's really important. And we will be rolling out here in the next week or two the chamber will be rolling out a talent retention and attraction strategy. And some of these things are embedded in that strategy. It's going to be presented to our board at the end of the month, and then it'll be rolled out publicly thereafter. So I say that to say I love hearing this, but I'm also glad to say that we've got some ideas internally that are already kind of simmering that will be put into action here in our new fiscal year starting in July. So this is a great.
I think that's fantastic. And when you look at the challenges and this infrastructure and the needs that are out there, we focused a lot on STEM, and that is critical to the country as a whole in this region. But the trade professions, boy, you talk about the lack of folks that are there. So community college, these trade schools is so important, I think, to our future as well.
Yeah.
I
think also
understand the need for the trades. Computer science and all of the high PhD programs and graduate degrees are sexy, pay more, the whole thing. But you talk to a lot of the large electricians in town, and they're not only scrounging to find people, but if there's ever a big project that comes in town, I think of like the Google project down in Stevenson, Alabama. It completely sucked Chattanooga dry of all electricians because they were chasing the dollars, and you had businesses basically having long periods of shutdowns. And so if there's not a huge pool of electricians and people like that in a given area, I would be hesitant to move to this area because of that, because if you've gotten hurt by that in a previous place or a different location where you own a manufacturing facility, you're going to be thinking in those terms because downtime is so critical. And I read an article, I guess it's a few years ago, and I've heard several people repeat this at the manufacturing facilities that I work with, that tomorrow's blue collar worker is not someone digging ditches. It's someone who can program robots, who can troubleshoot, who can troubleshoot PLCs, programmable logic controllers, the stuff that runs all the automation in the background. These are things that, that you cannot outsource troubleshooters. You cannot outsource electricians. These are people you've got to have at the local area that there's a huge shortage of. And not only that, a shortage, but experience. So a lot of the people who are stamping drawings and overseeing projects, they're retiring. If you look at the IEEE, which is an organization dedicated to the electrical industry, they would say that's the #1 concern is a lot of the talent is retiring here in the next 5 to 10 years, and there's not a big funnel of people to replace those.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a concerning national trend that a lot of new engineering enrollees in college are going into cybersecurity, computer engineering. There seems to be a drop off in EE enrollees, people that are going through the whole program and graduating. And I just think there's such a emphasis on cybersecurity that a lot of those kids are more attracted to that. I know for us, it seems like every year it's harder and harder to find people that know how to do what we need. It's a concern that it could be a industry nationwide trend.
Yeah, this just, it speaks to the importance of internships, of apprenticeships, of co-ops, and getting the next generation on in these trades positions plugged into the community. And even we've talked about kind of a leadership Knoxville type thing for interns across Knoxville. Wherever you're working, you've got an internship with the company. Let's help you build that network of folks and help those interns to stick in Knoxville. I mean, that age 25 to 54 demographic, we are struggling as a community. Over the past decade, our growth rate in that age range has been less than 1%. And that's your key workforce ages. And Nashville's, growth of 10, 15% in that age demographic. So that's a problem. That's a serious problem that we got to fix that. And some of the, the Tennessee College of Applied Technology has responded to some of these high demands for, HVAC, plumbing, welding, electricians, with doing fast pass programs where somebody can come in and get a credential in 8 or 12 weeks to get them into the system. So, but we need more of that. And some of the other schools around are launching similar events that you'll be hearing from us soon on those. Okay, well, we're at 9:58. Any last minute thoughts from the group? I think this has been a really informative discussion. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, but any final words?
Doug, I just want to say again, appreciate the opportunity to provide the economic development perspective, and I'll end with this. Don mentioned Boston and Austin and some of the buzz around it, and I look at some of the industry clusters where as you think about the data center industry, and it's highly clustered in and around Northern Virginia. Well, what brings it there? It's the infrastructure. The aerospace and defense industry and its tie to some of the military installations, such as in Huntsville, Alabama. ORNL is the legacy that brings a big tie to this industry. EPRI has a lot of connectivity, and not to undersell TVA, but we certainly find a lot of value to ourselves and our partners, such as KUB and other local power companies, and how we can bring forth that perspective. And so as we start to think about what is attracting other people to go to places like Boston and Austin, it's awareness. They're aware of the buzz, they're aware of the energy, pun intended, with those locations. And I've heard some entrepreneurs and within different industry sectors say this before, that some of the draw to some of these other locations is part of its legacy, part of it's that connectivity to the industry sector. And some of it is also looking out the door to say, what, if something doesn't work out here, I have other opportunities because of that clustering effect. And so I think that the Knoxville region certainly has that. It's all about bringing forth that further connectivity and awareness campaign to make sure people can feel comfortable with this location.
Any other final thoughts? Okay.
Just one quick one. Young people graduating from college, they want to go where they can meet other young people. And I don't think Knoxville has the best reputation for that. And I think we probably lose people to cities like Austin and Boston for that reason. I'm not sure what can be done about that, but I think that's important to people.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And, you know, UT does a great job of welcoming incoming freshmen onto campus. But Knoxville needs to do a much better job of welcoming incoming freshmen to Knoxville, you know, the larger community, and getting them plugged in and making them aware of all the variety of businesses and research and logistics and distribution that's happening right here. Every company we talk to is hiring right now. Everyone's looking for workers, and we're graduating 19,000 people a year in the Knoxville region. And we need to capture a lot more of those for the jobs that you all have in your businesses. So we will be doing shortly after this Zoom, you will get a quick survey, and we would appreciate your feedback and how you think it went, and room for improvement, suggestions. And I will just close by saying, again, thank you so much to all of you for taking the time. We had some great dialogue, and I will be reporting to my team here at the chamber of what we discussed, and I'm confident you'll see some action items come out of this discussion. So with that, I will close the Zoom, and hope you all have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Bye, guys.